Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video we are working with a C# application developed in the .NET Core SDK, and we connect this application to a MySql database, one database in this engine, and we learn how to connect a console application to a database. The first step that you need to verify is that your environment or your Visual Studio Code support the .NET applications. You can type the .NET help command, and that give you the version and the options available for this command. The second program that we need to install is the XAMPP. This utility contains the Apache, MySql, and other applications. In this case, we only use the Apache and MySql for the database, and Apache to access to the graphical interface of our database to make some tables with some fields, and to verify when we are changing something in the database with our console application. We select the default options, and we verify only that MySql and Apache are selected, as well as PHP MyAdmin. And we continue with the installation. Well, after you finish the installation, you can access to the control panel of the XAMPP, and you start the Apache and MySql. If you can start Apache, you need to go to config and Apache, the first Apache option, and change the port, because maybe the active it's disabled, or maybe other application has this port. Then you can use, for example, the 8080 port. You save the file and you start again Apache. Once you start the Apache server, you go to the admin in MySql to open the PHP MyAdmin. If you can open this option because you have an error, you need to go to the Chrome, then netinternals /hsts option, and you need to add the local host, selecting include subdomains, and you need to delete the local host domain to the domain policies, or the domain security policies. Then you select the advanced, proceed to localhost unsaved, and that open your PHP MyAdmin environment. After that, we're gonna create a database. This is a simple database. We creating the database or table, in this case person. This person, we assign an ID, a name, the last name, and the age. The name and last name with varchar with 50 in the length. In the ID, we make as a primary, and with an auto increment, and save this table, and we have a table with auto increment and a primary key. After that, we need to go to our Visual Studio Code to configure the connection to the database. First, we have here created a template of a console application. If you don't know how to create it, you just type the .NET new console, and that create a template in the folder that you are working. With this template, we are starting creating the connection string. I'm gonna copy the values just to make it fast. We create a connection string, in this case to the local database, the port. In this case, I create a username and a password to connect to this database. And this is the format of the database. And we accessing it with a normal mode. We don't use the SSL mode. To create a user assigned to, in this case, to this database, you only create a new user, in this case, and the password. The password needs to be the same. And we select the actions that this user can accomplish in the database. Sorry, I forgot to type again the password, and that created me a user assigned to the database. Now I have an error when I want to instance a connection to MySql connection, because I need to install these complements. Then I need to go to the console or the terminal and type .NET add package, and we start typing MySql. After that, we make the same, but now for the data package. And finally, we include MySql client. When you finish to add these packages, you only use the MySql.Data.MySql client, and that fixes the mistake or the error in this instruction. The next, I'm gonna change here a little bit the message, and we start configuring the connection to the database. We use a try catch just in case we have an error in the connection. I'm going to close a little bit the terminal just to look the complete code. I'm gonna test the application just to be sure that our connection string is okay. That means in this part that we start with the connection string and we start a connection, and finally, because we have an error, we just type a key with this message. The next, we need to use the connection to open the database. And we test the application, and the connection is established with the database. If we change, for example, the password, and we run again the program, we have an error because the password isn't correct, and that is the reason because we use a try catch just to make sure that our application is running correctly. This part about environment new line and to type the inverted slash with the end value, it's the same. It's just to a new line. Now we establish a command to connect to the data inside of our table. And we're gonna create a query just to access to all the data in our table. And the last part is just about evaluating if in the variable that you read or you are using to read line by line in the database, in the table, if you has a value, that means that you has rows, then you start reading the entire row. In this case, we have integer in the ID and in the age. The other two columns are strings, and we are inserting as in this part an space between these two parts of these two columns, and finally a new line. And I think that's it. If we haven't rows, that means that the table is empty. And finally, we need to close everything that we open at the beginning. And finally, we send the message that the connection is closed, and then we finish with the program. We start again the program, and we haven't right now information in our database. The database is empty. Now we go to our table and I insert manually some data. Example here. Right. We insert and we check here that we have the first value. We go again to the code, Visual Studio Code, and now we have when we make a request to the database, this responds with the data. In this case, we have only one row. We can add more data here in the insert option. And we check that we have three rows or three persons in our database, and we check again running the program, and now we have three persons in our database. And that is the way to connect a console application with a MySql database. Of course, you can change this code, or you can adapt to insert, update, or delete. We have in this part the reading about the database. You can change here the select to make some specific selection or with specific filters. But with this code, you can apply a CRUD application in a console with C# and .NET SDK and MySql. And see you guys